Hello friend. This is the summary of the book called The First Time Manager by Loren B. Belker, Jim. I hope you will enjoy it. So, you've been given a management position. Congratulations. The hard part is about to start. Some of your coworkers may think you should have been promoted instead of them. Or, your boss before you might have been so good that you feel like you have big shoes to fill. Soon, you'll realize that the skills that made you a great team member might not be the best ones for being a manager. And not many companies give new managers the tools and training they need to get going right away. But that's why you need these chapters. By learning about tried and true best practices, you'll gain confidence as a manager, earn the trust of your team, and get results that will set the stage for a long-term management career. In these chapters, you'll learn why it's important to praise people, what to look for in new hires, and how self-improvement can help you be a better manager. As a new manager, you might be tempted to use your new power just to show how powerful you are. Some new managers think they have to act like the boss by making big changes to departments or giving a lot of orders. Most of the time, though, this kind of power isn't needed. Instead, it shows your employees that you've gotten too big for your britches now that you're in charge. And this makes it hard to get their trust in the future. No matter how technical your job is, being a good manager comes down to being good with people. How people see you affects how much they want to work for you. So, it's especially important to make a good first impression that makes people feel good about you and your skills. The main point here is, as a new manager, you should make it a priority to build confidence and trust. Don't make any big changes in your first week as a manager. Give your workers a little time to get used to you. Then, plan to talk to everyone on your team for the first time at some point in the next 2 months. This could be a casual meeting in your office, a lunch, or a cup of coffee. But the conversation needs to happen in person and not be rushed. The point of this meeting isn't to push your own agenda, though. It's meant to make it easier for you and your direct reports to talk to each other. So don't talk all the time. Setting up this kind of open communication is important not just so that your team can trust and believe in your skills, but also so that they can see that you trust and believe in theirs. And if you want your team to trust you, it's important to show them how much you value what they do. Even though most people like to know they did a good job, that doesn't mean you should always compliment them. On the other hand, it seems fake to praise someone too much. Instead, only thank someone when you really think they deserve it. You should give details about their actions and explain how their performance helps the company. You should do this in private so you don't make other employees feel bad about themselves or jealous. Getting people to trust you and believe in you takes time. But if you listen to your team's concerns and thank them for their work, they will come to see you as honest, decent, helpful, and, in the end, trustworthy. We still see old-school autocrats in management, which is a shame. This autocratic manager wants to be in charge of everything and wants his team to work like robots. Autocrats think that they should be in charge of everything. They also think that being nice is a sign of being weak. On the other hand, managers who are diplomatic spend time explaining what needs to be done and why. Diplomats know that making decisions with their teams helps them get more done. Because of this, their teams feel like they work with their bosses instead of for them. Even though you may naturally lean toward one of these, neither is enough. In reality, different ways of managing people and situations are needed for each. So, it's important to develop a style of management that is based on being aware. The main point is that your management style should be different for each person and situation. As a manager, your main job is to make sure that your workers have everything they need to do the best work they can. This needs the right amount of control and encouragement. You are in charge of giving out work, explaining it, and making sure it gets done. And you give support by motivating, listening, and helping the team meet goals by getting in the way when necessary. Depending on their situations, different employees will need different amounts of control and encouragement. By using the awareness approach, you focus on each team member's motivation and skills before tailoring how much control you have over them or how much you encourage them. So, if someone wants to do something but doesn't know how, they mostly need control from you. And if they don't want to do it but have the skills, they mostly need to be pushed. Depending on the person's situation, you might give them more or less control or encouragement. Say you have an employee named Andy who works best when left alone. After being put on a team project, you see that he has trouble working with other people and that his enthusiasm is starting to fade. Andy usually doesn't need much encouragement or control, but in this situation, he needs a lot more of both in order to work as part of a team. In the same way, you may need to change the way you manage in general in some situations. If you've been given an urgent project, you might want to take a more authoritative approach to make sure it gets done quickly. But since you'll only use this kind of power sometimes, your team won't see you as a dictator. Instead, they'll see this change as an exception. Learning how to delegate is an important part of being a good manager. When you delegate, you give a task, project, or job to an employee so that she can improve her skills and the organization as a whole works better. Many times, new managers are hesitant to delegate because they are more sure of their own skills than those of their employees. Still others worry that their employees will do a better job than them. But many managers don't realize that delegation is a very important tool. It's not about giving people work when you don't have time. It's about helping your workers learn and get better. As a result, they'll be more interested in the organization and feel more connected to it. The main point is that good managers use delegation to help their workers grow. So, delegation is a great way to teach people new skills, right? But what if you don't know what to give to someone else? Start by figuring out which of your current jobs, tasks, or projects you might be able to give to someone else. But don't use delegation as a way to get out of doing work you don't want to do. The goal is to improve your team while giving yourself more time to think about the big picture. And there are some jobs that should never be handed off to someone else, like salary reviews, performance reviews, coaching, and firing people. Next, think about which employee would be most interested in doing the job, might have the time, and has already shown they have the right skills or could learn them. Also, use your best judgment to decide if a worker is ready to do the job. Once you know who would be the best fit for the job, you should meet with her and explain the job in detail. If she doesn't have the right experience, you should take that into account and spend more time clearly describing the work. During the meeting, agree on what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. You could ask the employee to send you an email with a summary of what you've agreed on. This is a good way to make sure she fully understands the assignment. Having a written agreement is especially important if the task has more than one date or result for review. When you give a task to an employee, keep in mind that their point of view, experience, and creativity are different from yours. She will probably do the job differently from you, and that's fine. Managers who are good at their jobs know that not every task needs to be done perfectly. It's more important to accept some less than perfect results than to do all the work yourself. Have you ever been to a meeting that you thought was a total waste of time? Well, as a manager, you can learn how to plan, run, and take part in meetings in a way that helps your team more. The truth is that meetings cost money. A 2-hour meeting costs about $800 for 10 people who make an average of $80,000 a year and get 2 weeks off. Even though it's nice to get your team together, you shouldn't do it too often. If you just want to share information, it's better for everyone if you send an email with attachments. But some meetings are unavoidable. When you need to talk about something with a group, set up a meeting with a clear agenda and try to limit the number of people who come. The main point here is, set an agenda and take turns speaking at meetings to make them run well. If you want a meeting to be as productive as possible, send the participants a proposed agenda a few days before the meeting. Those who come will be more interested in the discussion if they have enough time to prepare. The meeting agenda should list all of the things that will be talked about and how long each will take. It's important to stick to these times. When there's a clear end time in sight, people are more likely to pay attention to what's going on. Make sure to start meetings on time so you don't waste anyone's time. To make the most of everyone's time together, talk about the most important things first. But if the meeting is almost over and you haven't talked about everything, ask the people there if they'd like to go over time, meet again, or handle the issues over email. When you can, give the different things on the agenda to other people. They will not only feel more involved, but it will also help them learn how to be leaders. Think of yourself as the leader of the meeting. It's your job to keep the conversation going and make sure everyone is heard. You shouldn't be the one who says everything. And always remember that you are the manager. If you want to know what everyone thinks about a subject, wait to say what you think until after everyone else has spoken. This will make sure that no one tricks you or keeps information from you that could change your mind. Also, if you listen to the people on your team, you'll learn how important it is to hear different points of view. It takes time and money to hire the wrong person. Not only do you risk having to hire someone else for the job, but you also have to fix the problems that the wrong person caused. So, it's important to hire the right person the first time around. Your decision should be based on real data, references, tests, and anything else you have access to. When deciding whether to hire someone, most managers look at their education, experience, and qualifications. But a good attitude is the most important thing. Even if a worker has all the right skills, he or she could be a problem if they have a bad attitude. On the other hand, a worker with a good attitude but not enough skills can become a great worker with the right training. The main point is that a good attitude is the key to getting hired. So, you need to get someone on board. Let's say that your company's human resources department handles the first screenings, leaving you in charge of making the final decision. When you interview a candidate, you should focus on his attitude as much as his education, experience, and skills. It's normal for job seekers to feel nervous, so make small talk to start the interview. Then, slowly tell the candidate about the company and the people who work there, but keep it short. You want to make the candidate feel at ease, but if you do all the talking, you won't find out anything about how he thinks. After letting the candidate ask any questions he wants, it's time to find out about his attitude. One way to do this is to ask things like, what did you like most about your last job? If he spends most of his time at the company's happy hour and other social events, it could mean that he cares more about making friends than doing his job well. But if he talks about educational opportunities and the problems he faced at his last job, you can assume that he cares about a good place to work. In the same way, you can tell how a candidate feels by the questions he asks. People who ask about training programs or promotions within the company are likely to be better employees than those who only ask about vacation time. So, don't think less of a job applicant just because they ask about your company's health insurance or work hours. In these situations, they might be trying to fit in other things, like their kids, rather than having a bad attitude. There will come a time when you have to let someone go from your staff. In some cases, they may have been violent or dishonest, which meant they should have been fired right away. Most of the time, though, there will be some kind of formal process before someone is kicked out. Most good managers are very careful about firing people because of all the costs that come with it, like severance pay, outplacement help, filling the role, and more. But if it has to be done, learning how to cut the tie is an important skill that makes both people feel bad. And if you do your job well, the fired worker might even thank you in the end. The main point here is, before you fire someone, try to help them succeed. Set up a plan to get on the same page with a low-performing employee and give her a chance to prove herself, unless her actions are against the rules for firing her right away. When talking about her performance, describe the current situation, the level of performance that was expected, and how to close the gap between the two. Make it clear that her job is in danger, but also give her support and encouragement. Tell her you want her to do well and that you're willing to help her if she's willing to try. Once you've agreed on the goals and what needs to be done to improve, talk about when the next check-in will be. It's important to write down everything. Then ask her to sign it and give you a copy that she has signed. Before you leave, say again that you're there to help if they need it. So, if someone has been making 5 mistakes a day, you might agree that by the end of the month, they should only be making 3 mistakes a day. So, the first check on progress would be in about 3 weeks to a month. If she's getting better when you get back together, you might be able to move the next progress check back a bit. If she's not getting better, you should schedule it much sooner. This cycle should keep going until the employee meets the goals you set together or you decide to fire her. If the underperformer doesn't get better, having signed documents that show your process is important to avoid being sued. But after you've worked with the employee for a while, she'll probably realize that she's not a good fit. She might not like being fired when it happens, but in the long run, she'll be glad you made her find a better job. As a manager, one of your most important jobs is to keep your team going. You want them to do well because you want them to. This is a surefire way to improve the way you work and the way your team does its job. But don't confuse getting people to do what you want with using your power. Using fear tactics might work in the short term, but it will hurt your authority in the long run. Your team will try to do as little as possible to stay out of trouble. In some cases, your employees might really care about the success of your business. But the truth is that people are mostly driven by what's best for themselves. As a manager, it's your job to make sure the personal goals of your team fit with the goals of your company. What's good? All you have to do to find out what drives your employees is to ask them. The main point here is, align the interests of your employees with the needs of your business to get them more motivated. Different things drive different people. One worker might be motivated by the chance of getting a promotion, while another might want to please the boss. Whether they want to be the best in their department, get a raise, or just be proud of themselves, their goals will probably help your company. How? By fitting together. Dovetailing is a way to manage that brings together the goals of each team member and the goals of the company. The first step is to get to know the people who work for you. As you earn their trust, you'll find out what their personal and professional goals are. And don't be afraid to ask them straight out about their professional goals. You could, for example, ask them what they want to be doing in 3 years. Pay attention to what they say about their personal lives as well during these conversations. You might be surprised by how things you like to do outside of work can help your company. The second step of dovetailing comes into play at this point. Suppose one of your workers wants to learn Spanish. Then, at a staff meeting, you find out that the company wants to work with a company in Central America. When an employee wants to learn Spanish and the company needs people who can speak Spanish, it's a win-win situation for both. Your worker will be motivated because it will help him reach his own goal. The good thing for you is that you will also be a part of the new plan. Imagine that one of your direct reports is having trouble at home. One day, he'll lose it and start yelling at you. How do you respond? Calmly? Or would you shout back at them? If you've been a self-starter up until recently, you're probably more used to handling tasks than feelings. So, you're not the only one who finds managing people to be the hardest part of their new job. Even though not everyone is born with the skills to be a manager, anyone can improve their people skills by working on themselves. Self-development is worth your time, as most successful managers will tell you, because it directly affects your ability to help other people and stay calm in stressful situations. The main point is to develop emotional intelligence and a good view of yourself. Emotional intelligence is now a part of the training programs for top managers. Emotional intelligence is being able to understand your own feelings and also being good with other people. Experts have found that managers with a high emotional quotient, or EQ, are more likely to do well in their jobs. This is in contrast to IQ, which has no proven link to managerial effectiveness. You probably already have a high EQ if you're in touch with your own emotions, can stay calm in stressful situations, or seem to know what other people are thinking and feeling. But if it doesn't, don't worry. Emotional intelligence is something you can learn, and with some work, you can improve your EQ in a big way over time. In addition to emotional intelligence, being able to manage other people also depends on how you feel about yourself. That doesn't mean you should be proud, though. But if you show quiet confidence, you will be more likely to succeed. When you're a manager, you're bound to make a mistake at some point. If you have a good view of yourself, it will be easier for you to handle these situations. You won't have to try to hide your mistakes or put the blame on someone else. Instead, you can just own up to them and move on. Positive self-talk can help you feel better about yourself. Whether you know it or not, every day your brain sends you thousands of messages. By sending positive messages to your brain, you can improve your ability to deal with tough situations. So, when you're in this kind of situation, tell yourself things like, "I can handle this." When you do this often, it helps your brain build a good sense of who you are. And that helps your staff see you as someone they can trust and follow. Even if your staff isn't doing well, it's your job as a manager to give them what they need to do well. By matching the interests of your employees with the needs of your business, you can boost their motivation. Your employees will feel appreciated and supported if you help them grow by giving them tasks to do on their own. In return, they will work hard for your team because they trust and believe in you. That is all for now, friend. Keep learning.